In this tutorial, I wanted to take a look at another new feature inside of Photoshop CS5 called the Repoussé. Because Repoussé is a 3D feature, it's available under the 3D menu. This only applies to those of you who have Photoshop CS5 extended. So this is an extended only feature, and of course only available in Photoshop CS5. So the Repoussé now allows you to make text and any object pretty much look like they're in 3D, which you've been previously only able to do in Illustrator, and you haven't been able to do this design effect in Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my text tool, and I'm going to type out here, I'm going to make it a text box, and I'm going to type 3D text, and I've made the text fairly large, but I'm going to set the color here to let's make it a blue one like this, fairly bright blue. I'm going to go to 3D, Repoussé, text layer. And it's going to ask me, it's going to tell me that this text layer needs to be rasterized before I can do anything, and I'm going to click yes. But if you want to keep it editable, you must duplicate the text layer before you move into this. So it's going to go ahead and think. It's going to load up, and it's going to convert this to 3D shape. It's going to use all the textures that we have. It's going to use for textures, and then it's going to bring up this Repoussé window. And here you have a lot of options. Firstly, if I just move this to the side, you see that the text has a depth to it, and what should we say now? It's now in 3D. This by itself is really cool, but what you can do with it is even cooler. So you have up top a bunch of shape preferences here. You can extrude this, if you will, and a lot of different shapes. You can have, this is just the default, just a basic extrude backwards. Then you can have the surface extend or inflate in any way that you want. You can have it spiral, twist and turn and bend. Pretty much anything you'd imagine you can do in here. And using the 3D tools that are also available in the Repoussé window, you can modify your text and rotate it around right in here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some kind of superhero text here. So I'm going to increase the depth here, because the depth controls how deep we're going with the extrusion here. And the scale here will control pretty much how big this is. So if you go over 1, it's scaling outwards. If you go closer to 0, it's scaling inwards. I'm going to scale it a fair bit down. And I'm not going to apply a twist. If you do, you see that it starts twisting around. In this case, I don't. But I want to shear it. I'm going to say my X angle I can do to the size here. I'm going to keep my X angle to 0, but my Y angle is gonna go down a little bit here like this. You can do a fairly big amount here, and you can always select bend instead, and you can bend it down. You're gonna see, because once we start bending too much here, we're gonna bend it around, which is why in this case I'm using this shear feature instead. And so I'm trying, the goal is here that once we have enough of a scale and enough of a depth, what we can do is we can drop this. Now we can't drop it too much, but we can drop it to something like this without any trouble at all. And if I just rotate this around, because you can rotate it any way you want, it's 3D text. And you can apply any of these different light settings here. So let's do a light here. I think firelight. Remember, hard lights look good. Lush looks good here. And I click on OK. And what we have now here is the 3D object, as indicated here, with 2 different textures. And if I can highlight the textures, first is the color of the 3D text, and then we have the entire other texture here, which takes a while to unload. And together that's made up, so with extrusion material based in there. And you can still go in using the 3D tools. You can go ahead and rotate this and you'll get the 3D space here. So I can rotate it like this, and then I can use my move tool to position it where I want on the page. And still this is just recognized as that little text layer from before. So as you can see, we have this shooting upwards text effect that's previously been really tough to make in Photoshop. And by just applying a background with a couple of different colors in this foreground background gradient here, black and white. Let's apply gradient that goes from, let's grab one of these colors here. Let's grab the same one and make that a little bit lighter. I'm just doing this really quickly. I don't know if this works. It probably doesn't work. Let's go ahead and let's just make it dark in general. So let's make it dark gray to a lighter gray, but still medium gray. Well, this hardly doesn't work either, but you see what we get. So I can go ahead and colorize this. Perhaps I should have taken blue, or a greenish blue, something closer to this, and this is probably going to work out better for the design effect. But you see where we're getting at here. We're getting at that 3D text. We've got this layer as the background. We have the text shooting right up here, and by just adding a color background, you can just get your 3D text just looking perfect for what you want. And by just playing around with it, because this is, again, it's this 3D object, you can move it in any way you want. It's going to apply the lighting for you, and at the end of the day, if you want to destroy the effect and ruin the effect, you can always apply some kind of shadows, which usually don't mix well with the effect. But so that's the Repoussé in Photoshop CS5. We also, while demoing this, created a bit of a cool effect here. Again, 3D text or 3D objects. This is not just limited to text in Photoshop CS5.